Morning, everybody. Let's film Oak Hill update. What is this, 37, 38? I always have to go back and look at the previous one to get the number. Can't keep them straight. I actually picked up this brick. This is a fire brick. It says Oak Hill, amazingly, on it. In real life, I picked it up just on the other side of this fence right here, between the railroad spur and the loading dock, because that would be a place where bricks might fall off as they load them into boxcars or whatever. I'm sure that this brick was made at this Brickyard. I don't know that the kilns were made the same color because I don't have any color pictures, but I decided I would go ahead and paint the kilns the same color as the as this brick. Try to match it pretty close anyhow. So again, these are the N-Scale Architect. I'm not done yet. I have to wait for the paint to completely dry before I can detail it. I started to try to detail it, then it's water-based paint, and then the paint runs. And so it's I just need to be patient and wait for it to dry. So here's where I'm at on the Brickyard. Again, so in real life, this place had like 12, 13 of these beehive kilns. When they went out of business, tore them all down, and built the scrapyard there. You still use the loading dock for bricks for scrap now. They have the crane, which I can just got it sitting out of the way at the moment. But they've got the crane here, and they would pick up the scrap, and load it into gondolas on the other side. So in my world, I'm going to say they didn't tear down all of the kilns. They left these two, but this is just abandoned. It's going to be tall, static grass, scrubby trees. Now, it hasn't been abandoned for 50 years, so there's not going to be like 50-foot trees in there, but it's been abandoned for 5 or 10 years, and it's just starting to get all overgrown. It might be a good habitat for, groundhogs and foxes and things like that, even though it is in town. So it's going to have, just real tall static grass. It's almost, we've all seen pictures of these abandoned buildings, like, abandoned railroad buildings, and like you have to get within 50 feet of the building to know that there's even a building there. It's not going to be quite that bad, but it's going to be, they're not going to be real visible, even though they are on the edge of the layout. So let me swivel around the other end. And actually, I'll probably just move the camera down there. Bear with me for a second. All right. Zoom in here a little bit. This is the gravel road into the scrapyard. So I smoothed out a place for the gravel. I ground up some of my ballast to make it fine. One thing I did that I regret doing was I sort of outlined where I wanted the road to go with the black marker, so I'd know when to spread the gravel. Well, that black marker didn't go away. When I put the rubbing alcohol and the glue on it to hold down the gravel, it just sort of diluted it and spread it out a little bit. I'm hoping it goes away when I put the static grass around both edges of it. What I'm probably going to do is, I talk about Boomer all the time. Boomer talks about using the XS52 Tamiya wash. I think I will go ahead and wash this with that XS52 before I do the static grass. Now the scrapyard has a fence. This is a modern, this taken this year off Google Earth on the back side. So this is the old fence they put on it. You can see it's a chain link fence, and it's got some kind of panels on it so people can't see it, because this is in town after all. I mean, there's houses over here. There's houses over here. Not a lot, but there are houses. So to simulate that, I took some of the chain link fence from Gold Medal Models. I'll bring it up a little bit closer to where you can see it maybe. And I printed out on the computer. That's just paper, and I did it on both sides because that's the way it is. You can't really tell it's a chain link fence. And I'm going to glue it into place up here. I've got some holes drilled, but right now it doesn't sit level. I'll have to, after I get the static grass in and everything, I'll get it up there level. And that fence is going to go, I've got another gate to go here. I am not going to do it on this back edge. I did that in General Chemical in Chillicothe, and I snag it all the time. But in General Chemical, there's actually a street. In Chillicothe, there's actually a street right here, Washington Avenue. So here, I'm saying that the scrapyard comes on out this way. So it's actually bigger than this. So I'm not going to put the fence there. However, I will extend it down here and come around and encompass the rest of the, the kilns and all this wildlife area. Now what I did here was I took some balsa wood, which was the same way I did the loading dock here, but instead of covering it with styrene, because this wasn't going to be concrete, I put a real thin layer of hydrocal over it. I was going to use sculpt mold, but I have trouble getting sculpt mold to really lay flatter than I wanted. So I wanted it to not be dead flat, but I wanted it to, be flat, not be all lumpy, everything. So I have a real thin layer of hydrocal, and then I blended it on down the hill, coming on down all the way around. And then I painted it with some earth colored paint. So again, I'll take the kilns off, and I'll just going to really make that sort of like a wildlife type area. So that's where I'm at right now in the scrapyard. I'll talk about one more thing, and then always pan the wrong way. This is a picture of Cedar Heights clay now. It's actually bought out by another company. It still says Cedar Heights Clay, but I can't remember what the name of the company is that owns it. The cars, back when they got rail service, the rails went back in between these two buildings. So you can see there's a boxcar loading door. There's a couple more back through there. And they also had pipes down where they could load covered hoppers with clay. I'm not going to model this building. I don't have space, and even if I did have space, the cars would be going into a tunnel and I wouldn't be able to see them to uncouple them. So I'm thinking this building might have been a later addition anyhow. So I'm going to model this building, and it's going to be back this way, and you'll be able to see the cars. I may put I'm going to have pipes coming out to be able to load the covered hoppers and some boxcar doors. That's going to be a real challenge, but that's going to, that's why I was sort of holding it off till later. I'm dragging my feet on it, in other words. But anyhow, I just put that picture up there just to sort of show you, so when I do my simulated Oak Hill switching operation here coming up, you'll have something to, I guess, refer to in the background. All right, I'm not going to post this right now. I'm going to go ahead and do some more work on the kilns and the scrapyard before I post it. So probably film a little bit more in a couple days. I'll go to the handheld for a minute. The wash of the earth just didn't cover that black. So I just painted the brown directly on it, and then I did a wash. And you can still see where it is. I did a wash over the whole gravel in the whole area. I've got the fence in right here. Again, that's all I'm going to do. Not going down this edge. I did sort of cut that angle a little bit, so I hopefully won't snag myself. I decided to go ahead and ballast the track over here, but now I'm going to put static grass in. Get a pointer here. We'll go ahead and put static grass in here and here, and I'm working on the fence for down at the other end. Hopefully I can get that fence up and get the static grass going down here too. So let's sort of fly a drone around the scene. So if I did have a drone, I would probably be about as steady flying it as my hand is right now. But since I've got the fence up, still going to work a little bit on the dirt there, although that sort of looks like maybe mud puddles. So coming across the scrapyard here at the kilns, and the fence, and looking at down this end. All right, so let me talk about the kilns for a minute. Again, they're in-scale architecture, I think. Followed the painting directions on them as far as how to weather and everything. Again, I've never seen a color picture of these. I'm looking through a lot of books. This Along the Industries on the Tracks, Part 4, has a section about brickyards. And a lot of those I see where actually they would have like one smokestack for 2 kilns. So not every kiln had its own smokestack. Also, the smokestack that they gave with the kilns, to me, seemed really tall compared to the ones that I saw in the pictures, no kill. So I cut the middle of it out and glued it back together. And another benefit of that is if it was sticking up this high, I'd be a lot more likely to snag it doing uncoupling cars. So again, all these, including the fence, is just going to get covered with vines and scrubby trees and tall grass and everything in here. So eventually the scrapyard, in my fictional world, will tear these down and expand. But right now, they just left these two down, left these two standing there anyhow. So that's where I'm at on this. That's what I've been working on. Going to keep working on it. I'm going to get this done. And the plan is to have a little Oak Hill operating session. But first, let me talk about, I'm going to insert a picture here, and I'm going to talk about the SW7. So this is one of the trucks of the undecorated SW7. As you can see where I circled, that gear is broken. So this is a brand new locomotive. Unfortunately, that's the way it came from the factory, and that's why it was shaking the way it was. So this is going back to the factory. Benjamin's going to ship it back to me, then I'm going to ship it back to the factory. Keep you posted on the other one as I find out more. Everybody stay safe.